James Harden's career has become one of the most controversial in NBA history. This is a guy who is undeniably on the short list of the greatest scorers of all time. He's one of only 3 players in NBA history to score 36 or more points per game in a season. Between the 2010 to 2011 and the 2019 to 2020 seasons, no player in the NBA scored more points than the Beard. This amazing gift to put the ball in the basket has allowed Harden to see the playoffs in all 16 years of his career. But sadly, that's where the praise ends. Because when it comes to playoff basketball, James Harden has built a reputation that no superstar wants. In fact, he might just be the worst playoff performer of any superstar in NBA history. Now sure, if you look at the numbers without the context, you might think that's an exaggeration. Of the guys with over 100 playoff games played, Harden is one of only 4 players to average what he has or better in the playoffs. But this far from tells the story. Today, we're doing a deep dive into how and why James Harden has earned this underwhelming reputation. We're going to look at some of his absolute worst playoff performances. And honestly, there are a lot of them spread out across almost every single playoff run that he's had. I'm not kidding. Putting this list together took way longer than I thought it would. So settle in and get comfortable, because you're about to see just how many historically bad playoff games this man has had. 2012 NBA Finals, Games 3 and 4. We start all the way back in 2012, when Harden was just 22 years old and was playing for the Oklahoma City Thunder. He had been named the 6th Man of the Year for the regular season, and was exceptional off the bench in the Western playoffs, scoring double figures in every game. But when the NBA Finals came around, the pressure seemed to hit hard. In both Game 3 and Game 4, Harden shot just 2 of 10 from the field. That's 2 straight Finals games where a young Harden completely disappeared. The Heat would win the series in Game 5, and even though many would give him a pass due to his age, this was the first sign that maybe the lights were just a bit too bright for James Harden. 2013 first round, Games 4 and 6. Jumping ahead to the 2013 Western Conference first round, now facing the Thunder, his former team at this point, as Harden was traded to Houston after the 2012 Finals. Now the Rockets actually won this game, avoiding a sweep by the Thunder, but it was despite James Harden, not because of him. He had a rough shooting night, going just 4 for 12 from the field and missing all 4 of his 3-point attempts. Harden would also set the Rockets franchise record for turnovers in a playoff game, with a terrible total of 10. He was simply giving the ball away left and right. Then came Game 6 of that same series, and this one stings a little bit more. Harden put up 26 points, which doesn't sound terrible on the surface. But dig a little deeper and you'll see he needed a whopping 22 shots to get there, shooting just 31.8% from the field. And when the pressure was on in the second half, which will be a reoccurring theme of this video, he went ice cold, hitting only 3 of his 11 shots. To top it all off, he had 4 turnovers as his former team, the Thunder, sent the Rockets packing. Scoring 26 points on that many shots in an elimination game is never the performance you're looking for from your leader. 2014 first round, Game 2. Against the Blazers, Harden put up 18 points on 19 shots, just 31.6% shooting, and he added 5 turnovers. The real heartbreak though came in Game 6 of that series. Damian Lillard hit a game winner to end Houston's season. And while Harden had a decent game on offense, his defense was objectively awful, as he was targeted possession after possession down the stretch. 2015 semifinals, Game 6 versus the Clippers. Alright, now we get to a game that had to be on the list. The Rockets were facing elimination, and Harden was having an absolute nightmare of a second half. He started the third quarter going just 1 of 7 from the field. Things got so bad that the coach, Kevin McHale, actually benched James Harden to start the fourth quarter of an elimination game. Let that sink in. Your superstar, the guy you have relied upon for this entire season to the tune of 27.4 points per game, is sitting on the bench when your season is on the line. And then something crazy happened. The Rockets went on a 40-15 run without their top scorer and came all the way back to win the game. The Rockets saved their season by taking Harden off the floor. 2015 Western Conference Finals, Game 5. Still alive in the playoffs, Harden had a chance to redeem himself after the mess against the Clippers. But in Game 5 against the Warriors, he had one of the worst games in NBA playoff history. He scored 14 points, shot 2 of 11 from the field, and get this, he set an NBA record for the most turnovers in a playoff game with 12. With yet another awful performance in a must-win playoff game, this was the season where many began to consider him as a quote playoff choker. 2017 semifinals, games 5 and 6 against the Spurs. In game 5, Harden actually had a decent first half, but then the wheels completely fell off in the second half and overtime. The Beard scored a grand total of 10 points on just 3 of 8 shooting, and to add insult to injury, he got absolutely stuffed by a 39-year-old Manu Ginobili on the very last play of the game, sealing the loss for the Rockets. And then came Game 6, and it was an absolute disaster. The Spurs were without their main star, Kawhi Leonard, so many expected Harden, like many greats before him, to come out strong after a tough loss, and get the Rockets to a Game 7 in dominant fashion. In reality, however, San Antonio absolutely demolished the Rockets, winning 114-75, and Harden had just 10 points on 2 of 11 shooting with 6 turnovers. Harden looked helpless as the Rockets were again blown out in an elimination game, this time at home. 2018 Western Conference Finals, Game 7 versus the Warriors. This game is most remembered for the Rockets missing an unbelievable 27 consecutive three-point shots. And who was leading the charge for those misses? You guessed it, James Harden, who was desperately needed because his co-star Chris Paul got hurt in Game 6. He missed 10 consecutive three-pointers during that brutal stretch. While the entire team struggled, as the leader and primary ball handler, Harden, who won his first scoring title, must assume a large share of the blame for not finding alternative ways to score points and rally his teammates, as it would be expected of any superstar of his caliber. The Rockets had a chance to reach the NBA Finals and be the team that ended the Warriors' dynasty. But unfortunately, at this point, James Harden almost felt cursed as soon as the regular season ended each year. 2019 first round, Game 3. Now the Rockets actually won this game against the Utah Jazz, so it might seem weird to include it, but Harden was historically bad. He missed his first 15 shots in a row. That's the most consecutive missed shots to start a playoff game in NBA history. He ended up shooting just 3 of 20 from the field. To put that in perspective, of all players who have taken at least 20 shots in a playoff game over the last 30 years, only Karl Malone in 1997 and Kenyon Martin in 2003 had worse shooting percentages. 2021 semifinals, Game 5 versus the Bucks. Now this one has a bit of an asterisk because Harden was clearly playing hurt. He suffered a hamstring injury early in Game 1 and missed several games. He tried to come back in Game 5 for Brooklyn, but he was clearly not himself. He went just 1 of 10 from the field, missed all 8 of his three-point attempts, and he had 4 turnovers, all while clearly hobbling around on one leg. The Nets actually won this game, which is kind of amazing considering how poorly their star player performed. You almost have to wonder if they wouldn't have been better off without Harden playing as an obvious decoy. 2022 semifinals, games 5 and 6 versus the Heat. Game 5 was just an all-around brutal performance. Harden, now playing for the 76ers, scored just 14 points on 5 of 13 shooting, and yet again completely disappeared in the second half, going just 1 of 5 from the field. He also had 4 turnovers and a plus-minus of -29. The Sixers got absolutely hammered, losing by 35 points in a pivotal 5th game with the series tied 2-2. But somehow, Game 6 might have been even worse. In an elimination game at home, James Harden went completely scoreless in the entire second half. He took only 2 shots, again seeming like a shell of the man who could still play at a high level in the regular season. He finished with a -16 plus-minus, as the Celtics sent the Sixers home in 6. 2023 semifinals, Game 7 versus the Celtics. Another Game 7, another disappointing performance from Harden. He scored just 9 points on 3 of 11 shooting and had 5 turnovers. And just like in countless years before, he struggled in the second half in a way that was jarring, making only 1 out of his 3 shots when the pressure was at its highest. 2024 first round, Game 5 versus the Mavericks. It was a crucial Game 5 with the series tied. Harden put up a meager 7 points on just 2 of 12 shooting. He went 0 of 3 in the second half and had 4 turnovers. The Clippers got blown out by 30 points, and Harden's lack of offensive production was a major factor, which at this point was basically a guarantee if the beard was on your team. 2025 first round, Game 7 versus the Nuggets. Another Game 7, another Harden letdown. With everything on the line, he scored just 7 points and went 2 of 8 from the field. No urgency, no takeover. Just another disappointing finish to another disappointing playoff run. I just went through 13 different playoff runs where James Harden didn't just have a bad game, but a historic meltdown in some of the biggest games of his entire career. But what does this all mean? I think James Harden is a legendary scorer, a worthy former league MVP, and a future Hall of Famer. But when you go down this list, when you look at how often he came up short in a multitude of ways, it's hard to ignore this unfortunate pattern when thinking about his basketball legacy. Now I understand, bad games happen to every great player. Michael Jordan once went 9 of 35 in a loss in the 1997 Eastern Conference Finals. LeBron, of course, has the 2011 NBA Finals, and they called Magic Tragic Johnson for an entire year after the 1984 Finals. Having said that, the difference between these legends and James Harden lies in the fact that his worst games became almost certain to occur in the biggest moments, not once or twice in his career, but so often that we now expect him to not come up big when the games matter the most. And that's why, no matter how great he's been in the regular season, when it comes to the playoffs, James Harden has likely become the worst playoff superstar of all time. So what do you guys think? Is there anyone who can challenge Harden for the title of the worst playoff superstar? I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks for watching as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more basketball content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.